Every year, more than 2 billion frogs are brought into the production chain, which results in the production of about 20,411 million kilograms of meat for the international market. Farming frogs is quietly generating a multi-million-dollar industry that is reaching Europe, the United States of America, and the Middle East. This sector encompasses everything from small village ponds to completely enclosed farm systems. Farming frogs is no longer a modest side activity. Rather, it has become an integral element of modern agriculture, and it is woven into every stage of the development of this amphibian that appears to be quite familiar. The emergence of frog farming around the world is a story that is barely ever told. Yet it is packed with unexpected twists and turns. The journey of frog farming around the world, a green agriculture technology. The cultivation of such little frogs was a procedure that lasted for several months and required the farmer to have technical expertise, the appropriate environment, and attentive care for the frogs. They require clean water, natural light, and daily attention from the time they are only little tadpoles until they are fully fledged frogs. Additionally, they require regular attention. Would you like to learn more about this journey? The first thing that has to be done in order to begin a frog farming cycle is to set up an appropriate rearing space. Cement tanks, soil ponds, lined with tarpaulin, and plastic containers are the most common types of containers utilized by farmers. The water depth is kept between 8 and 16 inches, and the bottom of the tank is slightly slanted to facilitate drainage and cleaning without causing any difficulty. In order to prevent frogs from jumping out of their enclosures and to keep other animals at bay, surrounding nets are very necessary. After the tanks have been completely cleaned and disinfected with lime or salt water, they are then filled with clean water and left in the sun for several days in order to stabilize the ecosystem. This is done before the frogs are introduced into the tanks. From the very beginning of frog farming, the selection of breeding stock is an extremely important factor. When selecting mature frogs, farmers look for those that are healthy, have no abnormalities, have strong reflexes, and weigh between 317.51 and 498.95 grams. In separate tanks, breeding can take place naturally, or it can be forced with the use of artificial hormone stimulation devices. Following the collection of fertilized eggs and their subsequent incubation in clean, aerated tanks, the eggs eventually develop into tadpoles after around 1 to 2 days. During this extremely sensitive phase, it is necessary to maintain a consistent temperature and use clean water in order to guarantee good development. Eggs laid by frogs develop swiftly in water once they have been fertilized. A spine, eyes, and finally a tail will begin to take shape in the translucent spherical eggs within 1 to 2 days of their hatching. At just the perfect moment, the delicate membrane that encircles each egg ruptures, allowing the baby tadpoles to emerge. There are no legs on them when they are born. Instead, they walk by flicking their delicate tails and feasting on the yolk sac that is still present in their bodies. This is the moment when they undergo their initial metamorphosis into autonomous aquatic organisms. At the point in their life cycle, when tadpoles begin to develop legs and their tails begin to progressively fade, they enter the most crucial stage of their development, which is the transition into juvenile frogs. When amphibians reach this stage of development, their respiration system transitions from gills to lungs, and their locomotion transitions from swimming to hopping. This marks the beginning of their life cycle. This phase typically lasts for approximately a week and requires careful monitoring when it occurs in agricultural situations. The water must be clean, it must contain a high concentration of oxygen, and there must be places that are shallow so that the frogs may begin to adjust to their new surroundings. Following the completion of the transition, the baby frogs are still rather small, weighing only approximately 0.1 ounces, but they already have the appearance of miniature adults. It is at this point that they begin to pursue prey and begin to adapt to moving both on land and in the aquatic environment. For the purpose of avoiding injuries and overpopulation, farmers often move the frogs to tanks or ponds that are quite shallow and have a moderate density. Small pellet feed or fresh food that has been finely powdered is the primary component of their diet. It will only take about a month for the young frogs to reach the point where they are ready to enter the commercial farming stage if they are given the appropriate care and approaches. During the commercial farming stage, frogs are considered to have reached a weight range of 45.36 to 68.04 grams, respectively. At this stage, farmers normally pick individuals that are healthy and uniform by transferring them to grow-out tanks that are specifically designed for this purpose. The water level is kept between 8 and 16 inches, and it is required to replace the water on a regular basis in order to keep the water clean and to maintain the stability of parameters like as pH, dissolved oxygen, and temperature. Frogs can attain a weight of 149.69 to 199.58 grams each after being properly cared for approximately 10 to 13 weeks, which is the minimum weight required for harvesting. Beginning 12 to 24 hours before harvesting, producers stop feeding the frogs in order to empty their digestive tracts and maintain the quality of the flesh harvested. Due to the fact that high temperatures might cause frogs to become stressed, the harvesting of frogs normally takes place in the early morning or late afternoon. In order to collect the frogs in one area, farmers first decrease the water level in ponds or tanks, and then they use nets or mesh screens to collect them. The frogs that have been collected are placed in mesh bags or baskets, and then submerged in clean water in order to calm them down and lessen their level of anxiety. Through the use of this procedure, scratches are reduced, and the frogs are protected from harm while being transported to processing facilities in a healthy state. Once the frogs have been purchased from farms, they are transported to processing companies in containers that are refrigerated in order to preserve their freshness and guarantee the safety of the meal. At the facility, the entire process is carried out in a sterile, enclosed environment that complies to hygiene regulations in a stringent manner. The frogs are transferred to the preliminary processing section, where they are washed with cold water and given a light disinfection made with ozone or other solutions that are acceptable for food purposes. The products are then arranged according to size in order to fulfill the various requirements of the market. It is possible to process the frogs in their full form, cut them into pieces, or fillet them, depending on the food that will be consumed. These stages are carried out with the assistance of contemporary machinery, in addition to hand checks, in order to guarantee accuracy. After being processed, the items are put through a fast freezing procedure at a temperature of around -40 degrees Fahrenheit. It is then vacuum packed and stored at a temperature of -0.4 degrees Fahrenheit in order to maintain the highest possible level of freshness. It is the responsibility of the technical staff and quality control teams to oversee the entire process in order to guarantee that the finished products are up to the standards required for export to difficult markets such as the United States, Japan, and Europe. Frog farming in China has grown from a small-scale rural practice into a multi-billion-dollar industry that now supplies meat to international markets such as Europe, the United States, and the Middle East. While most people are familiar with frogs only as exotic dishes in restaurants, behind each plate lies an intricate and surprisingly high-tech farming process. However, beyond the breeding tanks and factory lines, there are deeper, often overlooked dimensions of this industry worth exploring. To begin with, one major concern is the environmental impact of intensive frog farming. Although it presents a controlled alternative to wild harvesting, the operation of high-density frog farms can generate considerable waste, especially nutrient-rich wastewater that may contaminate nearby rivers and lakes. If not properly treated, this runoff can lead to eutrophication, which negatively affects aquatic biodiversity. Moreover, the frequent water changes required to maintain healthy rearing conditions can place a heavy burden on local water supplies, especially in regions already facing scarcity. In addition to environmental issues, disease management poses another significant challenge for frog farmers. Due to the crowded conditions in farming tanks, frogs are particularly vulnerable to bacterial infections, such as red leg syndrome. Consequently, farmers have implemented biosecurity protocols, including regular health checks, quarantine systems, and the use of probiotics to boost immunity. Furthermore, scientific efforts are underway to develop vaccines and breed disease-resistant frog varieties, marking a new frontier in amphibian aquaculture. Equally important is the economic role of frog farming, both for local communities and the national economy. In fact, China's frog farming sector was estimated to be worth over $7 billion in recent years, providing employment opportunities and supporting rural development. Not only does frog meat cater to domestic preferences, but it is also a valued delicacy abroad, driving export growth and encouraging the adoption of advanced farming and processing techniques to meet global quality standards. Moreover, innovative integration with other agricultural systems has enhanced the sustainability of frog farming. For example, in rice frog co-culture systems, frogs help control pests in rice paddies, reducing the need for harmful chemical pesticides. In turn, the frogs benefit from the natural environment and food sources found in the rice fields. This mutually beneficial setup increases biodiversity, lowers farming costs, and promotes environmentally friendly agricultural practices, making it a model for sustainable food production. Nevertheless, as the industry expands, it faces increasing scrutiny regarding animal welfare. Critics have raised ethical questions about the living conditions of farmed frogs, especially in high-density environments where overcrowding may cause stress or injury. Moreover, humane practices during harvesting and processing are essential to ensure ethical treatment throughout the production cycle. Addressing these issues requires clear regulatory standards, proper worker training, and transparent practices to build consumer trust and ensure that growth does not come at the cost of cruelty. In conclusion, frog farming in China is far more complex and dynamic than it may first appear. While it has achieved remarkable success in meeting global demand, it must also tackle pressing concerns related to sustainability, disease control, economic equity, ecological integration, and animal ethics. Only by addressing these factors can the industry continue to thrive responsibly and contribute to a more balanced and sustainable future in global food production.